So let's look at who is going to survive the Battle of Winterfell. Now obviously last episode was fan service. It tied off a lot of stories with characters. It reached the end of arcs, so that probably will point towards a few deaths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the characters, say where I think they're going to die or survive and why, and possibly on a couple where I just can't decide. I'm gonna cop out, I'll admit it now. Some I just don't know what's going to happen. So I'll build a tier list of most likely to die, most likely to survive, and all of in between. So I think we should probably start with the main characters. We'll start with Jon Snow, as I would say he's probably the main character as far as we know, unless you believe the Littlefinger story, but there's another video on that. So I think Jon Snow in this episode, I would say he's fairly safe. I think if the Azor Ahai comes true, it's going to be him that kills Dany, not the other way around. Although I think there'll be a point in the episode where it looks like he's about to die and Dany has a chance to save him and she probably hesitates and he might notice that. I think that's the only way he's going to come close to dying this episode, and the same goes for Dany. I think these two are some of the safest characters and they tie everything together, so I just don't think they're going anywhere at the moment. I think Bran, probably because of how he can see into the past, he knows story, is a way to push the story forward. He almost is invincible right now, which means since it's Theon that is protecting him from the Night King, Theon I would put at the very bottom of the list. I think he is the most likely to die. So this is how the list is set out so far. Jon Snow right at the top, just below him I would put Bran, then Daenerys, and then right at the bottom, Theon. So I think we should look at my probably favourite character at the moment, and that's Sansa Stark. I think after her conversation with Dany and talking about what's going to happen after the war, if there is an after, I think she's probably going to survive. The North follows her. There's still conflict with Cersei to come. There's still conflict with Dany to come. I think there's still a lot more this character can do. I also think she's been through the roughest and most interesting journey in the show, so I don't think they're going to kill her off. And if I had to predict, if somebody's going to be sat on the throne or rule the North or win the Game of Thrones, my money would be on Sansa. So I guess saying that, she should skyrocket to the top. But there is doubt in my mind for her, so I'm going to put her just below Bran. Next up, Jaime the Kingslayer. Again, a fascinating character whose arc has gone up and down. It's been a roller coaster. He was the most hated character, he was the most cocky, he was the most interesting, he turned into a fan favourite. We were rooting for him and Brienne. He's just been up and down. There's been so many different feelings you feel towards this character. But right now, he's fairly safe. There's still Cersei that needs to be paid off, and I think Jaime is probably the one to do that. So I don't think they're going to kill him off. Unfortunately, he's going to be fighting under Brienne, so we know something's going to happen there. I think because Brienne's arc's been paid off, she's been made a knight. As horrible as it is, I do love the character. I think she's probably going to get in the way of something to save Jaime and die herself. So Brienne fairly low on the survival list and Jaime quite near the top, because not only do I think he has some plot armor, I think he has Brienne as armor as well, which is probably the best armor you can have in this show. Then we've got, I guess we should look at Tyrion, the Imp. I don't know if people still call him that or if that's just offensive now, but we've seen a decline in his character. He's been getting everything wrong, which is his strong point and why Dany took him on board in the first place, so that is a worry. We do see him on top with Jaime, but I'm pretty sure he does go into the crypts eventually. I'm sure I saw a shot of that, so he must be fairly safe. I think he might help people survive down there. I'm fairly sure Varys is going to die down there protecting people. Melisandre did warn him that he would die in this country, so I think he will this episode. And I think there's going to be a really touching moment between him and Tyrion, because they have been quite close. They've travelled together. They're both incredibly smart people. So I think that's what's going to happen. Tyrion will get away. So I think Tyrion will be safe this episode. And Varys, unfortunately, something's going to happen in the crypts. They've just built it up too much. So Varys is fairly low on the list. I would put Tyrion sort of middle ground, because he could still die. But I would put Varys just below Brienne, so I think there's more chance he dies than Brienne, to be honest. And then we've got to look at the comic relief of the last episode, Tormund Giantsbane. See, what I said about Jaime and Brienne protecting him could happen here as well. I don't think there's any chance in the world that Brienne is going to die without Tormund having something to say about it. So unfortunately, I think that is going to be his downfall. He's also quite a wild fighter, so I don't think that's going to work against, although saying that, he does have experience. It's so tough to call. I really don't want Tormund to die, but I think the episodes are going to get a bit darker, and I don't think his comic relief is going to be as useful, so potentially we could see him die. I'm going to put him middle of the table, just below Tyrion. I didn't realise how many characters there are. I'm going to try and speed this up a bit. So we've got the Onion Knight, Sir Davos. I don't think he's going to die. He's not a main character, but he's someone we've grown to love. Although killing him off would be, like I say, he's not a main character, but people would really feel that. So there is a chance he would die. I think I'm going to put him in between Tyrion and Tormund. So there's a chance, sort of middle ground, but it's so hard to call that one. I guess we should look at the last member of that group that was sat in the hall last episode, and that is Podrick Payne. I think Podrick Payne's arc is just starting. He's finally becoming a soldier. We saw him singing last episode. I mean, everything's coming up Podrick at the minute, so I don't think we're going to see him die. I think he's sort of become a fan favourite, and I think killing him would have a lot of impact, but I don't think we're going to see it happen. Although I can't put him above Tyrion in terms of protection, because Tyrion is a massive character, so I think for anyone to pass him, they must have some kind of plot armor. So I'm going to put him just below Tyrion. I think he's fairly safe, but there is still a chance. So we've got Grey Worm and Missandei. These two are at the very bottom of the list, even below Theon. In the episode, all they did was talk about a happy ending and plan out their future. I feel like that's just put a massive target on their back, and there's not a chance either of these survive. So we're going to see both of them die this episode, and they're right at the bottom of the list. I think Theon maybe could escape. He's been quite noble, so there is a chance that works in his favour, but when has that ever worked in Game of Thrones? So yeah, they're, for me, those three characters right at the bottom of the list. Unfortunately, then we've got Jorah Mormont. He's had so much story behind him, so much character building. We've seen him really grow over these seasons. I don't know, I feel like that was a farewell for us. I think this character is going to die. I'd put him probably just below Brienne. It's so difficult. I think we're going to lose a lot of really cool characters this episode, and we're not going to be left with much, so I think the ones that we are left with are going to be quite pivotal to the story, and I just don't think he will be anymore. We've got Arya and Gendry, two characters that had a touching scene together last week. So this week you would expect to be seeing that torn apart. I'm not so sure though. I think in the trailer Arya's running from something. I do have a video on what I think that could be, so check the description below for that. But I think it was too obvious. I don't think she's going to die from that. It's just way too obvious in the trailer for a character like Arya. And I think if Arya's safe, Gendry might be safe, and here's why. With the Robert Baratheon quote from the first season talking about joining two houses, it's kind of a stretch, but I don't think it's the biggest stretch to think maybe Gendry ended up on the throne with Arya at his side. Arya never wanted to be that princess, so she wouldn't want to be the queen herself, or she wouldn't want to be the ruler, I don't think. Maybe she's on the Kingsguard, I don't know. There could be something cool there. I don't think those characters are finished, but then again, seeing the last episode, it could happen. Like, they're built up, they're both happy. I haven't seen Arya smiling forever, so it definitely could be. I think Gendry's got slightly more chance of surviving, but again, these are two characters that I have no idea about. I guess the dragons and Ghost have become characters now, so I should probably include them. I do think we'll see definitely the dragons. Hopefully Ghost, we've not seen much of him recently. I feel like Ghost is more an extension of Jon than any other direwolf has been, so I will say I think Ghost will survive, whether it's that we don't see him or he just makes it out. I think we're more likely not to see him, or we're only going to see a few shots of him maybe in the crypts, because I think in this type of battle it doesn't want to be jumping in. The whites are going to get the advantage of it, so if it actually fights I think it will die. So I'm going to put it sort of mid-table around the same area as Tyrion. The dragons, I think they have to go with Dany, so they're going to go right next to her either side. If the dragons die, I think Dany possibly could. Obviously she's going to be riding one, I think Jon's on the other, so they're going to sort of tie together with them. So obviously they're fairly safe as well. We've got two characters which are, like, these guys I have no idea how safe they are. I think Beric is going to die. His flaming sword has to play into it somehow, so I don't know if maybe Jon goes down and he gives him the kiss of life, or maybe the Hound dies and he gives him the kiss of life. It's just, I think he's going to save somebody, probably the Hound since they're together. There is the shot of the Hound all bloodied and beaten up, surrounded by fire, so I think the Hound could be in trouble as well. I don't think he has any more story to pay off. Obviously there is the Clegane Bowl, but there's no reason for that anymore. They're at war. There's going to be no trial. I don't see where that would fit into the last 3 episodes. Maybe if one's turned into a white, they fight as whites. Maybe the Hound is a white and the Mountain as the weird zombie thing he is, Robert Strong. That is the only thing I could see happening there, sort of fan service wise. But I think the Hound is probably dead and Beric could be dead as well. I'm going to put them sort of around the same area as Brienne, maybe slightly less safe. Yeah, I'll put them just below Brienne, so I think these characters are probably dead as well. If we look at the list, we're losing a ton of top characters, which is going to be rough, but I think that's exactly what this episode is. After the last one, we got the sort of story and character building, and this one, we're just going to see everyone die in classic Game of Thrones style. So there it is, there's my rankings. I've probably missed a character out, so I'm sure you'll let me know in the comments. Also let me know if you enjoyed this episode, leave a like, and let me know what you want to see next, because I will be doing videos up until the end of Season 8 and beyond if you guys want to keep seeing them. So until next time.